Hi, welcome back to another One Chart lesson. Today we're doing Layla by Eric Clapton, and I'm going to take you through a couple of different levels of playing difficulty for this song, because there's some easier ways we can do those signature riffs and little bits of the solo. And at the end of this lesson we are going to also go through the way to play the original Derek and the Dominos sort of straight rock riff that everyone kind of knows from the old version of this song on an acoustic guitar. So stick around for that. Download your charts. There's 3 levels of chart difficulties plus the 4th level, which gets you that original Derek and the Dominos riff. But today we are doing this MTV Unplugged version of Layla, which is probably the most famous one, definitely the most famous one. And we'll start with that opening riff. Now, what we're doing at the very basic level, we are using power chords for a D, which is an open D string and the 2nd fret G string, just 2 strings only, strumming or picking the strings. And we go open A, 3rd fret A, up to the D power chord. And the D power chord, actually, it's what they call a push. It actually comes on the 4 and of the previous bar. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you'll see on your chart, it actually starts on that 4 and in the lead-in bar, and carries over into the first beat of the first actual bar through that repeat sign. Once you do that, you come back down, open D, 3rd fret A, now down to a B flat power chord, and everyone should be able to do this. It's 1 finger on the 1st fret A string and your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret D string. And that's the shape of a power chord. No matter where you go on these bottom few strings, power chords always take that same shape. It's basically the first 2 notes out of a bar chord. But if you don't know your bar chords, just think of this. Your root note, whatever that is, whether it's a G, E flat, B flat, and the next string over and it's 2 frets up from your root note. So it makes that little shape. Very easy. And all you've got to do is concentrate on where you're putting your 1st finger, because that's the root note. Wherever you put that 1st finger, it's that power chord for that note. So, down to the B flat power chord, 2 more little strums on that, move that shape up 2 frets to the C, which is that shape on the 3rd fret, another 2 strums, and then back to the D power chord, so like this. Level 1, just do that 2-bar riff 6 times. 6 times, right? The next level up from that is actually using a slightly different rhythm, which you'll hear in the actual version, in the MTV version. The rhythm we do on the C changes slightly, and it's like this. First time, 2nd time goes like this. So you do that 4-bar pattern, on the level 2 chart, you do that 4-bar pattern 3 times. The level 3 way of playing this is changing that lead-in riff very slightly, which is not actually what they do in the song, but it's kind of halfway between that and the Derek and the Dominos version, so it sounds kind of cool. And now we're landing on a bar chord. Instead of a power chord for D, we're landing on the full D minor bar chord. Now, if you don't know your bar chords, check out my video below on how to play bar chords and how to find them everywhere. If you do know bar chords, you land on the D minor, then instead of going down through that C note, you lift all your fingers except for the first one off that chord. That counts for your C. Then on the up strum, because that's the beat that it falls on, we're landing on a B flat power chord, which is an E shape on the 6th fret. Move it up 2 frets to the C bar chord, back to the D minor. And you can alter the rhythm there like we did in the 2nd version as well. That little intro lead in starts on the 5th fret E string and goes hammer up to 8, goes to the 5th fret A string, hammer up to 8, but come back down to the 5. And and land on the chord. That's the intro. That's the intro riff. Now, when we get to the verse, or rather when we get to the end of this intro riff, and there's that one bar that's different for all three levels, the one bar at the end, instead of going back to the D minor, you go two on the C, and then stop and go A, C, and land on your first chord of the verse. The level 1 chart, these chords are just going to be power chord versions. The level 2 chart is the full bar chord. So I'm going to take you through the full bar chords, because let's not forget the power chord version is just the first 2 notes out of those chords, right? So first chord, C sharp minor 7. Second chord, G sharp 7. Go back to C sharp minor 7. No one's waiting, C by your D side E. And if you like, you can do on the end of that E, play the open E string, 3rd fret B string, and back to the open E string. So it's... Then we go to the next section. Again, bar chords, F sharp minor, you've been running B, and hiding E much too long, A. Do those 4 chords again. You know it's just your foolish pride, Layla. The chorus is the same as the verse. Got me on my knees, Layla, begging, darling, please, Layla. Okay, at the end of that chorus, the same thing happens again. A to C, back into the verse number 2. That's where you hit the DS, which means del segno. It sends you back to the start of the first verse, which is now the second verse. You go through exactly the same chords again, do another chorus again. At the end of that one, you go through that DS sign onto verse 3, which again is the same thing, same way. Then when you go to the third chorus, we do a double chorus. Now at the end of this double chorus, we don't do that little A, C thing to get to our next verse, because there is no next verse. We go straight into the solo, and the solo just runs over the intro riff, or the chorus riff. Does that pattern 4 times. That's twice. 3. Then it goes into a little breakdown chorus, and it just follows that chord pattern until the end of the song. So that's the song, that's the song format, and the different kind of levels of difficulty in playing those few riffs. It's basically the intro riff and using bar chords or power chords. So let's move on now to the solos and see how we go with those. I'm going to pull those apart, and then at the end we're going to go through the original rock riff that you hear in the original version. So with this solo, the intro solo, phrasing is everything, and the pentatonic minor scale is where we're basing our 2 positions that we use for this solo mostly. Now, the first position, well, not the first position, the position that we start with is on the 5th fret here, so a D minor pentatonic scale because we're in the key of D minor. Think of that as your home base here, you won't go too far wrong, and you'll always have a reference point for where you need to be. The other position is on the 10th fret, where we play our D minor pentatonic scale up there. So starting here on the 5th fret, you're working through from the 7th fret. You see that's the D minor shape. If you're playing a D minor bar chord, that's where we start. Now that fast little trill, the notes are pretty self-explanatory. You start with your third finger and your fourth finger, and that lets you have these two fingers on the B string to go 5 and 6. Now this little trill, listen to the timing first, because if you played it without the trill, like on the simplified version on your solo chart, now there's actually 5 notes there in the space of one beat. So it's very difficult to try and be accurate with your timing to play 5 notes in one beat. So what you need to do is you need to make sure you come out of that little trill on the right beat. So don't try and do anything except fit those notes in, but come out in the right place. That's the best way to attack that. It's all about phrasing and timing. So worry less about how many notes you have to play there and making it sound like the phrase that you hear in the solo. That's the first solo. Now I'll take you through that very slowly because there's a lot of notes in there and you need to kind of just step through it very gradually. Again, concentrating on the phrasing and the timing as much as anything else. To use the right fingers there for those hammer-ons will help you a lot. First finger on the 5th fret, second finger hammers onto the 6th, third finger goes over onto the 7th fret G string. And just practice that on its own. After that, you come up, slide up to that 8th fret, slide up to the 10th fret. You don't need to slide up to that 13, but you can if you want. And now you're up on that 10th fret D minor pentatonic scale. Again, that little hammer there. Another little fast trill. And you don't have to play that last note if you can slide down to it and keep it ringing. That note there, great sounding note. You're sliding down to the 5 on the D string from the 7th fret, but you don't want to hear that note on the 7th fret. So as you start that, you start with the pressure off the note and you put the pressure on as you start to slide. So you hear that sound. And then a very fast hammer on back from 3 to 5, cut it short immediately. Now let's move on to the main solo. The main solo starts here on the 5th fret E string and the 6th fret B string. And you play that together. And it's kind of got a slightly nice dissonant sound to it. Then down to this little blues run there, ending down on the 5th fret A string. Again, all about your pentatonic scale here with that blue note in the middle. As you do that, 7, 6, 5, then slide that first finger down from 5 to 3 on the D string. Then we jump back up here. Now with our 3rd and 2nd fingers, we're going to do this 14 on the G, 13 on the B. And you go 1, 2, 3, a total of 6 times. So each one is one beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then do it again. Change fingers now to the 2nd finger. Slides up to the 14th again on the G, 13 to 15 on the B, then come back to the 14, and again it's one of those notes where you don't really want to hear the start of it, but you slide down to the 12 on the G, right? So you're going now we're into this D minor pentatonic run. Now pay attention to that phrasing there, the rhythm of that note, because it's just one note but it sounds really cool because he gives it some odd accented timing. That's your first half of that solo. As soon as you've done that, you're heading back up to the 10th fret with your pinky go to 13 and play 13 down to 10 on the E string. There's a lot there to unpack, so take your time with it. After you've gone, and you can do a little bend on that 13, sounds kind of nice, but you don't need to. $14 on the G, 15 on the B, and then we do this little run. 12, 13, 15, and cut them short. When you're coming down through this this section that I just did there, start with your first finger, move your first finger down to 9 and let your second finger take the B string note. The very next one, they sound like, you know, they're almost all the same thing, but you go first finger, first and second finger, third and pinky finger, and that lets you do the very next one, which is a pinky on the 10th fret, B string still, but your first finger takes the 7th fret G string, and you hammer that onto 9 with your third finger. So, and it also puts you in the right position here to go 9, 10, 7 on the G string. That's the solo. I hope you have managed to get around that. Please let me know if you have any trouble with it, and if there's something that you just can't quite get sitting right, get in touch with me. I'll try and help you through it. That's what I'm here for. Have fun with it. Take your time. Remember, concentrate on the phrasing and make sure you're using the right fingers in order to get to that next position that you need through that solo. And tune in again soon. We're uploading new songs every week, and we hope to see you again soon. Okay, so here is the intro from the original version by Derek and the Dominos. We're doing a few more notes at the start. We're landing on the D on the 1 beat instead of the 4/and beat, and it goes something like this. I'll do it slowly first and then we'll get more up to speed. Right? That's the first part. Then we move into the bending guitar melody. Twice. Now, what those chords are, I'm not going to name the chords because it won't really help a lot of people. what it is: third finger on the 8th fret D string, second finger on the 7th fret G string, first finger on the 6th fret B string. Then you add your pinky to the 8th fret B string and you play that chord. Lift that pinky off, come down to the 6th fret where your first finger is. Then we go down to a C bar chord, but you're going to do it like this. Your first finger takes the root note. Your third and fourth fingers take the 5th fret on the G and the B strings. And then you jump across to take the same frets on the D and G strings. So it's... and then you land back on the D. And for that D, I do a power chord with the octave on the B string, 3rd fret. Like that. So it sounds like this. Second time we go up to this lovely little chord, which is 8th fret D string again, 10th fret G string and 10th fret B string. Then you lift those two notes on the G and B strings off, come down to 9th fret on the G and 8th fret on the B. So you get this. Again, down to the C, do the same thing, and do it all again. I'll show you what I'm doing there actually, because that's a little bit tricky if you can't see properly on the video or you're not quite sure what's going on. From there we come down to the power chord. From that B flat power chord, this finger's reaching over there just to muffle that E string like that. You go down to the open A string, down to the 3rd fret E string. So you go, come back up to the C power chord. Again, this finger's just coming over to muffle that E string. Again, open A string followed by 3rd fret E string, up to the D power chord there. It's a little bit fast, but you can do it. The second half is the have fun with that. It's just a little bit of extra challenge if you want it. If you don't, have fun with the acoustic version, and thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.